Welcome back to another episode of Have Game Will Travel. I'm your host, Bennett Newsome, also known as Damn It Bennett out on the internet. But as the Director of Esports Growth and Development here at Full Sail University, I'm super passionate about exploring the diverse world of esports and gaming beyond just skill level. So whether you're a first-time listener or a returning fan, we're thrilled to have you joining us for this virtual journey through the experiences of industry professionals. Get ready to engage with our guests and learn from their perspectives. Remember to submit your questions in chat and we'll get them answered here on the show. But sit back, enjoy the ride as we kick off another episode of Have Game Will Travel. And let me introduce my guest here, Jesse. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on. Excited to be here.
Absolutely, man. I'm really thrilled to dive into things. I want to give you a quick opportunity to just kind of introduce yourself to everybody, talk about what you do quickly and why you're here.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Jesse Bodony. I've been in esports and specifically collegiate esports almost 10 years now. Before that, I played soccer professionally, and then I found my way into higher education and esports. For the past 5 years, I've worked as the director of esports at Pace University out in New York. And then I've also, for the past 5 years, worked at a nonprofit called Voice, which is Voice of Intercollegiate Esports. And for the past 2 years, I've been the executive director of that organization.
I love it, man. Yeah, we've known each other for a while. I did not know about the professional soccer thing. That is a brand new fun fact that I learned today, or not today, but in doing my research about this. So we will talk about that. But talk to me about gaming. What kind of got you into gaming, and when did you know that this was going to be a big part of your life?
Oh man, I feel like the first time I picked up, I can't remember what it was, whether it was might have been a Game Boy Color, Pokemon Yellow, I think was the first real game I got into. And it was just fully game over from that point
Yep.
on. I mean, I have an addictive personality. So when I met video games, it was fully
Yep.
GG. But yeah, Pokemon, I played the backyard games. I played StarCraft early on. And then I've just been a gamer my whole life ever since that point, pretty much.
Did you ever dive into the competitive side yourself, or is that what landed you in esports? Like, how did you come to be in the esports realm?
Yeah, it was a mixture of competitive and also social.
Yeah.
My disposition is fairly competitive, so however I was gaming was
Right.
baseline fairly competitive. But yeah, that's kind of how my friends throughout my youth at elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and beyond, it was all through gaming. In high school, my core friend group, and I'll share a little story here. So I've got a bunch of tattoos, but the first tattoo I ever got, I don't know if the camera can see this.
Yeah.
This number 5 on my shoulder here. There's 7 of us in my long-standing friend group, and we actually drew numbers out of a hat before we went off to college. Is how we got the tattoos. And I got number 5. But we met through World of Warcraft.
That's awesome.
So it was a key social hub for me. All of my buddies played. And then I played, what did I play most seriously? Probably StarCraft.
Okay.
I was a Grandmaster StarCraft player.
Nice.
And then, League of Legends, that's my main game now, but I've been hard stuck platinum for like 9 years. So yeah, so now I just play ARAMs with my wife when I can. But yeah, competitive kind of throughout, but socially, I think
Yeah.
was the main pull for me.
And it's a way to come together, right? Obviously, having this large group of friends that we're able to bond and cut teeth playing games, going into the world. I think that's such a key component of really the greater esports kind of scene, is that it's all about community, right? Like you're really focusing on those experiences with other people.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, all of my closest friends pretty much, I had a touch point with them through gaming in one form or another. So I couldn't agree more with you there.
Yeah, awesome. So one of the big things about this show is we talk about the experiences and kind of gaining your feet as you go through this industry. We talk to students all the time. They're like, "Oh, I have this dream, this goal," and the road seems so far away, and the pieces in between sometimes seem really challenging to figure out, well, how do I get to that end goal? And so we talk about your journey as going through your career, and kind of those first stepping stones that you made to get to that place that you're at now. Obviously, you have a great resume. You've been in this space for over a decade. Talk to me about that first step into esports, and how you got started, and really kind of the step that you took to get there.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in just rolling your sleeves up and getting your hands dirty
Yeah.
and learning through experience and failing a bunch early and often, and just sort of running forward and seeing where that gets you. Um, but I got into it originally through my alma mater. So I went to University of Oregon for several years, and at that time I was just a gamer recreationally. Didn't have any sort of career aspirations. Mostly was soccer focused. Actually dropped out of school and I moved out to Colorado to play soccer
Yeah.
over there a little bit with the Rapids. And then after I was pivoting away from the soccer career, I went and finished up my degree at a small liberal arts school in California. And while I was getting my degree there, was I getting my undergrad or my master's? Might have been my graduate degree at that point. I was working as the executive assistant to one of the deans, and esports at the collegiate level was just starting to emerge. That was back in 2017,
Yep. Hmm.
maybe 2016, some thereabout. And there were some gamers around that I knew, and I just started getting people together, and kept on pushing on that with the school, and eventually founded a small esports program there. And that was kind of my first baby steps into the esports realm in a vocational sense.
Yeah. And so did that kind of just fall on your desk? Like, hey, we've got this esports thing. You like gaming? Like, how did that kind of come to?
Not really. I was sort of banging on doors. I was probably pretty annoying about it. Yeah, I was like, this is cool. We got to do this. And so I
Yeah.
was just, whoever would listen, going to teachers and faculty and staff and deans and just saying, hey, look at the data and look at this Newsome report I got, and
Yep.
it could be great here. And a couple of them, I think, propped me up and gave me some baby wings to run with it. And then that kind of, yeah, that got me started. And then after that, I had a slightly larger swing at it. So while I was working as the executive assistant there and wrapping up my master's, and don't tell the school I did this, but I was also uh, founding a company with a buddy of mine that was called Uni Esports Group. And it was my grifter era. It was a consultancy, and we helped schools build esports
Yeah.
programs. Uh, but at the time, it was a little bit different because it was so new, so few schools had it. There were zero resources for institutions about how to properly, institutionalize esports and
Yeah.
bring it onto campus and
Right.
weave it into the fabric of a school in a holistic way. And so those resources were new, and me and my buddy, we did that, and we ended up working with north of like 90 or 95 schools,
Oh
and through
wow.
COVID and the whole thing. So that was kind of my first real entry point beyond just standing up a program at my
Yeah.
alma mater.
But obviously, standing up that program had a lot to do with the buy-in on your end, right? Like you helped build this program on your campus, and that gave you an opportunity to present that as, hey, this is how we did this. This is the path that we took. So it was taking, you're talking about rolling up your sleeves and doing the work. I mean, you did the work, right? And so
Hmm.
that really goes a long way. Talk to me a little bit about, because again, I just learned this about you, the professional soccer aspect of your career. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big part of my life for the majority of my youth. I just grew up playing sports. I was a two sport guy with soccer and tennis, actually.
Okay.
I actually spent some time out in Florida at Bolletary Tennis Academy. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with IMG.
Yeah, IMG. We've actually done a couple events, esports events with IMG in the
Okay.
last couple few, I guess, years now with them. But yes, very familiar.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, IMG, I spent some time there. I was quite young, seeing if professional tennis was something I wanted to pursue. Turns out after losing to a 10-year-old Russian girl when I was 14, I said, nope, it's not. I'm going to go this way.
Yep.
And that ended my tennis career. But yeah, I played soccer and then went to University of Oregon, played there. It was a little bit of an odd situation with their collegiate men's program. Title IX stuff, it wasn't as funded as like the men's football program or basketball program,
Mm-hmm.
but still super high level, a bunch of D1 players, basically D1 level, and dropped out to try to play pro, moved to Colorado. I was coaching high school soccer at the time, and I ended up getting on the Colorado Rapids under 23 team. I was the captain of that team. I had a little bit of time, about 2 months with the first team reserves. I never got any first team time. So when I say I played professionally, it's a little bit of a stretch, but I don't want to explain the whole thing. But yeah, I did that. And then injury and some other stuff just kind of cut my career a little
Yeah.
bit short, and decided to go back to school and finish up the degree.
Yeah, and that's it's such a great like story that you had that experience. What sort of things have you been able to bring from that professional sports world with you when you start getting into like esports leadership and building your program from a competitive esports standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, all the principles, it's all the reasons that a parent might cite, I think, for getting their kids into a sport, generally speaking. It's good when for teamwork,
Yeah.
communication, social skills, you learn how to be a leader, how to be a team player. All of that's just super true and broadly applicable.
Yeah.
So in an esports context, it's, the crossover and the correlation between traditional athletics, it's always there. Whether you're playing or coaching, the principles apply uh, in broad strokes all the time.
Yeah.
But from a from a personal standpoint, um, I learned a lot in my soccer career about leadership. I don't mean for this to sound egoic or arrogant, but I just kind of gravitated towards leadership roles
Right.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
was a captain on many teams growing up, and just cutting my teeth in a context where you have to perform, and people around you are looking up to you, and how does your behavior and your conduct inspire or uninspire people,
Right.
or
Yeah.
what do I do that makes the people around me better, and vice versa, and how do I get motivated by what they're doing? Those were the sorts of things that I gleaned from my experience as a player that I found to be most valuable,
Yeah.
just in a working context.
Yeah, and those leadership roles obviously have, like you said, kind of followed you around, right? You found yourself in them, coaching high school soccer, right? Do you see like a lot of avenues of those things coming together as you stepped into like the director of esports role at Pace University, and some of those things carrying over from the earlier days, or have you really tried to stand in a different lane as you've progressed in this new career?
That's a good question. I would say that, when Pace, so when I came to work with Pace originally, I was still with my consultancy, and we'd been doing that for about 4 years. And the way I got started with Pace is we had a contract with them to sort of see if esports was an appropriate program to bring on campus.
Right.
So we're doing some assessment work and just seeing what was what. And then after a while, they were looking for a director, and I was looking to not be a consultant anymore. That work is not as fun as being boots on the ground in a more directly esports context.
Right.
But for them, they didn't want to just start a program. They wanted to be a leader
Yep.
in the collegiate esports space. They wanted to do something unique and different and stand out. And they had a really excellent vision. And that was what I was looking to come into. I had a couple of other offers and things, but they weren't as bought in all the way up to the top, to the level of the senior administration and the
Right.
president. And so they were looking for somebody, I think, to come in who could execute on a on a vision that they had. And I made myself seem like I could deliver that for them. Whether or not I could remain to be seen, for
Right.
sure.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so it was fully go mode when I got there, building the facility, standing up the teams, and I think working with both the students, with colleagues, and building relationships and allies across the institution in every department.
Yeah.
That's a lot of that came from skills I picked up in my soccer career for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. What sort of fears? I mean, you talk about uh, them having a specific set goal and a vision in mind, and you trying to meet that vision, and also kind of being like, I don't know if this is it. What sort of fears were at the core of that for you when you first started, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's I think it's just doing something and doing something confidently, having never done it before was probably the fear.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? They say, come do this, build a program, make it excellent. And I sort of had done that, but
yeah,
it's half true. So there was some, I don't know if I'd necessarily call it fear, but there was some unknowns in
yeah,
that for sure. But it's an enjoyable thing. It's a challenge and pushing yourself and growing and doing it in real time. And certainly along the way, I messed up a number of times, and there are learning experiences for sure. Um, but yeah, it was just sort of a stumble forward, learn as I go sort of situation.
hmm
And yeah, I think that if there was fear, it would be mostly in the unknown of being hired to do something I
yeah.
hadn't exactly done previously.
Right. But you did it though. That's the great news, right? Is that
Yeah.
you've been able to build this. You've talked a lot in the past in interviews and on social and all of those things about really the students being the heart of your program. What sort of things are you learning from them, and how they shape kind of the direction of Pace Esports?
I think that the thing I've picked up from them over the past 5 years working with them, and working even before the PACE students, but working at the high school level, is
Yeah.
that age is there's nobody that can't provide an amazing idea or insight or contribution regardless of their age. And it annoys me in my career. I've seen so many people in fairly significant positions of power or leadership roles that have been so closed off to people for no reason and just a bit narrow-minded.
Yeah.
And some of the best developments in our program and ideas, whether it's for social media or how we structure tryouts or our practice schedule or a partnership thing or something else entirely, have come from the students.
Yeah.
And just being open-minded and receptive and giving them the platform to be able to contribute and empower them to make decisions and build it with me. They have amazing ideas.
Yeah.
They're super smart. Leaning on them as a resource. And I think there's a secondary benefit there, which is that, in my opinion, that's what builds a really incredible internal culture.
Yeah.
When it's not top down, when you're sort of in the trenches with them, and they feel like they're building this program with you, alongside you.
Yeah.
And that's the most fun thing as a student, and you get to see that program have victories and get recognition. I mean, that's where students get invested, and
Yeah.
that's what makes a student, to my mind, at the end of their collegiate career, or 5 years, 10 years, down the road, when they think about their experience in college, it's like, yeah, the esports program, that's the thing that stands out in my mind. And I think it's in large part because they get to have a hand
Yeah.
in conceiving it and building it and molding it. So
That like
that's
ownership,
that's
right?
kind of my
Like,
personal bit there. Yeah.
yeah, like the ownership of being able to be part of this, they're able to take that on as something that they're helping to build, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Awesome. So we have like our first question from chat, and there's a compliment prior to it, but then there's an actual question, I believe. It comes from Samurai Tank, and she says, "I find Jesse to be one of the most authentic leaders in the space that oftentimes craving authenticity, and I really admire this about him. I'd love to know how he maintains such an unwavering commitment to authenticity, and if he has any tips for young leaders that may be looking to follow his leadership style." It's a great question.
Wow, making me blush for that comment and question. That's a very good question. If the perception of me is that I have unwavering authenticity, that's awesome to hear. But I think it doesn't necessarily feel like that internally all the time. And I think a lot of people in leadership roles would probably attest to that, or in any role where it's like sometimes you're in your zone and you know what you're doing and you're locked in.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times it's super uncertain. You don't know, and you're kind of faking it till you make it. And certainly the majority of my career has been that, you know. But I don't know, just being comfortable with not needing to know everything, not needing to show up in certain ways, not having to have all the answers. Once I wrap my head around the fact that like just asking questions and asking for help and leaning on other smart people and tapping into the many resources around you that you can do that.
Yep.
Then it's like, you know what I mean? There's things you know and things you don't know. And if you're comfortable with either side of that equation, I think that authenticity will sort of shine through. And then just, yeah, don't try to be somebody you're not.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think there's room for that. Just be who you are in whatever that looks like. Be unabashed about it.
Yeah.
Whether you're can I swear?
You are welcome
well,
to.
I'm a swear. Okay. I'll try to not do it for the sake of the stream, but yeah, I would just say whether you're like a storm of a personality,
Yeah.
or whether you're a quieter person, or you're somebody who likes to be out in front or in the behind the scenes, there's no right answer and there's no wrong way to be, and there's no wrong way to lead.
Yeah.
So just understanding who you are as a person and understanding that what your leadership style is, and how you effectively motivate people or inspire people, and what that looks like, and how you can reproduce that consistently. I think that's an important piece of it. But just, yeah, there's no space to, and don't waste your life energy just trying to not be who you are.
Yeah.
Because it's an exhausting thing. And we've all done that at some point. It's it's an inevitability, but
absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that being your authentic self is like the kind of the point of what you're saying. And like, I think that's such a cool part about this space, especially in the collegiate side of esports, is that there's so many great leaders that are just them. And there's nobody else like them. And they bring such a bright spirit to their organization, to their students, to all of those things that really make it special. So I love that. With you yourself as a director in this space, you recently had a nice big celebration, winning the program director of the year at the Scholars Awards. That's a pretty big milestone. Talk to me about what that like recognition brings to you, not only personally but like professionally. Being awarded, with that distinction.
Yeah, I mean that was a really special moment. Yeah, it's mostly on a personal note, just to be doing good work, and having that work, or doing work that's validated by so many people around you that you respect so much and that you look up to, and that I've put on a pedestal, and to hear that they were in support of something like that.
Yeah.
I mean that just it makes your heart dance, and it makes me glow. And I was just filled with so much gratitude and appreciation. And that was a personal feather in my cap that felt great. And there's so many deserving people out
Oh
there
yeah.
who could have done it. There's definitely some guilt and imposter syndrome in there as well. I remember walking on the stage. Um, but yeah, for the school, it's important too. I mean, they want to show that stuff off. I
Yeah.
would say if awards or recognition comes your way in any capacity, whether that's an article or
Yep.
you get to do an interview or an award, make sure your institution or your colleagues know about that, and don't be afraid to toot your own horn at times. I would say, not don't be over the top about it. You don't want to be egomaniacal and just wild, but just don't.
To an extent,
It's all
there's a
to an extent
level. Yeah.
within reason. I think it's important, and if you're at an institution, I'm sure they'll
Yeah.
latch onto that and support it as well.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot of conversations on the show before about like it's okay to have a humble brag every now and then, like as long as that's
Yeah.
not your personality, but you're celebrating what you're doing. And I think a thing like the Scholar Awards, everyone coming together and celebrating the folks that are putting in the work and the time in this industry has been huge, and it was a great celebration. And I'm love to hear that the recognition went both ways for you on a personal level, but also from an institution wide. Talk to me about Pace University and your esports program there. Give us kind of the rundown of what that looks like, and what makes it stand out from other collegiate programs.
Yeah, Pace it's a pretty unique program just because of where we're situated geographically. So we have two campuses. We have one campus which is in Lower Manhattan, and that's sort of the main
Yep.
campus. And then we have another campus that's about an hour north, in a place called Westchester. And I think we have about 11,000 students at Pace in total. So it's a fairly decent sized school. But we're right when you get off the Brooklyn Bridge, we're right there.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
in the heart of the city. It's a really cool place if you ever get to come visit. And then our esports center, it's on the street level. It's got this huge window and you can look right in. And that space, I don't think there's a space like it anywhere in the country. So that's definitely one of the differentiators we have, is this cool space. Our program is big and our space is very small. We have last year we had 150 students in our program
Wow.
across varsity, academy, and club levels. We have a no cut policy because we just believe in casting as wide a net
Yeah.
as possible. And we min max our space really hard. We only have 17 PCs across both campuses, 12 in New York and then another 5 up in Westchester. And we make it work. We partner
Yeah.
with LAN centers throughout the city to kind of get some extra space and expand the footprint. But we just want students, whether you're pushing the edge of, competition and competing at a super high level on a varsity team, or whether you're new, for you to have an excellent experience and make friends and have community, and for that to be a pillar of your collegiate experience. That's sort of the philosophy of the program. That's what esports and gaming was for me. It was social, it was community, it was friends, it was also competition. And so being able to provide that for students at whatever level and not turn them away, and have them feel like they can make connections in a space where they might have not been able to previously, or haven't had the platform or space to be able to do so. That's kind of what our program's all about.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, obviously the community and I like the no cut policy. Does that come from your time in traditional athletics, or do you feel like that kind of making an opportunity for everybody to participate really goes a long way in building an effective program?
I think so. I think it depends on the institution's goals, right?
Right.
If you want to play against Winthrop and Maryville, then maybe you need to have a different policy. From the outset, we were never going to have scholarships, and we didn't have those sorts of competitive ambitions. So the philosophy sort of mapped on and was reverse engineered. Part of it was put forth by me. That's my personal philosophy, but
Right.
also it did
Yeah.
align with what the school wanted to. They wanted maximal impact,
Yeah.
and in my opinion, just sucks to turn a gamer away. Like,
Yeah.
why, if I'm gold or if I'm diamond or grandmaster, I don't think that should be a deterrent from
Right.
participation.
Yeah. What titles do you guys play in?
Last year we had, let's see, League of Legends, Valorant, Smash, Rocket League, Fortnite, TFT, Siege. Think that's it. I think we're at, is that 7 titles?
7,
There's
yeah.
one more. I think we had 8 titles. What was the last? Overwatch? Did I mention
No,
Overwatch?
I don't think so.
Overwatch, and then we're adding Rivals this year.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that's great, and that's a large amount of teams to not only field, but divide between 12 computers, right? So talk about min maxing, man, dude. Yeah, absolutely, you really are. We've got another question from chat. First time chatter, Coach Stanley asks, "Who do you look to for inspiration as you help build our ecosystem? Who do you consider a North Star in history?"
I would say that, man, there's a lot of people I could name. There's a few groups of folks. So the first wave of collegiate esports, some of the players and leaders who ushered esports onto college campuses and had some of the leading campuses back in the early days.
Yep.
Those are folks that I have been inspired by a long time, namely folks like Mark Deppy at UC Irvine, Kurt Melcher, Glenn Platt, AJ Dimmick over at Utah. Those folks really paved the way for the industry that's there today. And I was lucky enough to get to work with them pretty closely in the early days of voice. So those guys for sure. But man, there aren't many people that don't inspire me now. Like, through voice, we get to work with so many directors through the Directors Advisory Council. I don't know how I get to be a fly on the wall in a call with a bunch of university presidents, but they are certainly inspiring. But just the general drumbeat and energy of professionals in our space, of directors and coaches and staff, it's the heartbeat of an educator. It's so student facing. It never isn't about what's best for the schools and the students. And even though there's a lot of ideas that point in a lot of different directions and a lot of people with different visions, the thrust and the energy behind that is all coming from the same place, which is doing right by the industry. So I wouldn't say it's, one person that's really pushing me forward, but it's just everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe that sounds cheesy, but truly everybody. It's like there isn't one person out there that isn't. I don't leave a conversation that I'm like, damn, that person is doing some epic stuff, and that kind of fires me up.
Yeah, and obviously you dropped some huge names there, but also brought up a voice, and I know that in your intro we talked about voice a little bit, but tell me a little bit about voice for someone that maybe doesn't know what voice is and kind of what that role is.
Yeah, so voice, it's an acronym that stands for Voice of Intercollegiate Esports. It's a nonprofit, a 501c3 that, broadly speaking, just tries to make collegiate esports better. And the ways that it does that primarily are through research and advocacy and policy and trying to bring smart, good, right-minded people to the table to collaborate and do cool stuff. That's what the organization does in broad strokes. The main thing that we have at the center of the organization is what's called our President's Advisory Council.
Yeah.
And that's really sort of a unique value that Voice was able to make happen, is bringing together university presidents and chancellors to help set the strategic direction of the industry. Collegiate esports really grew organically at a grassroots level. It wasn't super top down historically. It's like the students and clubs and then eventually kind of went up from there.
Yeah.
But historically, the voices of presidents and chancellors and the tops of the institutions was kind of missing in a dedicated capacity. So that's what we sought out to do. It took 3 or 4 years to get the first meeting together. Um, Thank you to Chancellor Gilman from UC Irvine for opening up his Rolodex and bringing that initial cohort of presidents together. But yeah, that is at the heart of Voice. That's kind of a central cog. And then we work closely as well with our Directors Advisory Council. It's a volunteer group of directors that give us our charge and our research initiatives and our projects. Same with the presidents. And we're basically just boots on the ground folks going out and doing the stuff that people want to see happen in the space.
Yeah, I love that. Talk to me about stepping in as kind of the executive director position for Voice. How did that all kind of come to be for you?
Yeah, it was interesting how that transpired. We had a previous executive director who was really excellent, and he laid the groundwork for the organization. And some of the toughest bricks that were to be laid, he laid, and he did a ton of foundational work. But standing up a 501c3 is not easy, and making it solvent is not easy. And I think there's always a question if you're a nonprofit of what you're doing and what value are you bringing to the table in a real way. And for it took the group. There were many people working on Voice as a project for many years, where we were sort of trying to figure out exactly what the direction of the organization was. And then I think the organization grew to a point where it just there was a real financial need, a real need for having a sustainable model. And yeah, myself and Russ Hamer sort of kind of came into the fold. We'd been volunteering with the organization for a long time previously, so we didn't come out of nowhere. But yeah, the organization transitioned, and then been in that role for the past couple of years, and surrounded by amazing people and many different iterations of the board, and people who have just such incredible visions and are so savvy when it comes to business and how to pursue research and thinking about what the industry needs to be able to make real consistent steps forward in the right kinds of directions. But yeah, that's kind of how I wound my way into the role.
That's awesome. And you guys recently held the Voice Summer Summit. What were some kind of the biggest takeaways? Because that was in front of what, like 100 different leaders from 100 different schools?
Yeah, so we have our President's Advisory Council. Getting together presidents and chancellors is not easy.
Probably
we have
not,
2 meetings
no.
a year. No, we have 2 meetings a year, one in the winter and one in the summer. And our winter meeting is more of a business meeting. So that's basically only Voice President's Advisory Council members. And we're drilling down to some more specific stuff. The summer meeting, it's a little bit more of an open forum. So we have our presidential members there for Voice. But then what we do is we extend an invitation to other institutions and their C-level leadership, primarily presidents, for them to kind of listen in. And they get kind of a freebie. Hey, this is what other presidents are talking about. This is the conversation. This is what's happening in the industry. My belief is that it's super important. Nobody can convince a president like another president, ultimately.
Right, yep.
That's and activating, having the light bulb go off at the highest levels of the institution, mobilizing real resources around collegiate esports. It happens when chancellors and presidents can hear the anecdotes and the stories from other presidents and chancellors who are doing amazing things on their campus around esports, or are tackling real large systemic issues, whether that's interfacing with publishers or deciding what kind of research will move the needle for the industry for the next 5 or 10 years, or talking about the Olympics and how colleges and esports interface with that. Those are the kinds of topics that pop up in those conversations. but also the kind of topics that we want to introduce more C-level folks, presidents, chancellors to, and just get their ears on those conversations.
Yeah, that's great. And obviously you guys have been kind of growing rapidly and moving forward quickly. Back, how long has Voice been around and an organization?
I think, how long has Voice been? I should probably know this. I think 2019 it was incepted,
Yeah.
if
Okay.
that's a word.
Yep.
And yeah, there was an initial group that got together, and they were just like, hey, college esports needs a voice
Yeah.
that unifies colleges and advocates on their behalf and bargains on their behalf. Because at the end of the day, publishers and developers do not necessarily have students and schools' best interests at heart. And there should be an organization that does
Yeah.
and can represent them well and effectively. So that was the initial thesis behind the organization.
Yeah, I love that. We've got a question here from Jacobs' Nachos. He says, "Hi, big Jesse fan here. Speaking of voice, what are some challenges you faced with getting university presidents on board, and what are some tactics you take to show them the value of collegiate esports?"
Yeah. The challenge is university presidents and chancellors, as I've learned over the past few years, deal with a lot of really stressful stuff all the time. And often stuff, as much as I hate to admit it, stuff that is a higher priority than esports.
Right.
When you think about campus sit-ins and things happening of that nature, and the kind of socioeconomic, macro political environment that we're in right now in higher education in the United States, there's a lot of stuff that they're dealing with. So the trickiest bit is just finding the time where they can even have half a moment to think about esports, right? It's not that they wouldn't necessarily care or aren't interested. It's just a matter of bandwidth at the end of the day. So I think bandwidth is a tough challenge. And then the connection, right? Getting to talk to a chancellor directly for 20 minutes is not easy. And finding the right way through a massive institution, especially a lot of these larger D1 schools that are getting more interested,
Yeah.
that's a tricky bit as well. And there's a second part of that question: what are the tactics to show them the value? The big one I mentioned before, it's just having it validated through people of their ilk, right?
Right.
Having another president say, I'm all in on esports, I'm investing millions of dollars. There's nothing I can say that would ever come close
Right.
to that level of sort of, sales asset, as it were. Maybe that's a crude way to frame it, but that's a tactic that I think is really important. And then just being data driven. I know it's cliche to say that, but the industry in large part has been propped up on data that is okay,
Mhm.
and a lot of other data that's not okay. And then beyond that, it's a lot of anecdote.
Yeah.
But what you can say to a president or an institution, here's the truth around enrollment and retention and what scholarship dollars do, and how your investment does or doesn't move the needle, and what the truth is in terms of the challenges and the reality of
Yeah.
standing up esports on your campus. That's something that folks will listen to a lot of the time.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's the
That speaks, right? Like when you talk, we've had countless amount of people on the show that talk about their institution's goals, right? And you even said it to yourself.
Yeah.
The goals of Pace have a very specific thing that they're focused on, right? And other schools, some are, hey, we want to win. We want to win. We want a championship, and that's their goal. Others, hey, it's retention. It's about keeping our students here, keeping them happy, keeping them engaged in classes and activities. Others, it's about recruitment, bringing students in that want to participate and bringing those opportunities. So, talking and having a president talk about those specific things can go a really long way. And even talked about scholarships, which damn it, Dalt here says massive Bennett fan. That's me. But with esports growing all the way down to the primary education level, do you see college esports starting to recruit more with scholarships like they do at many other college level sports in the near future?
Yeah, I actually don't know. I think there are a lot of programs out there that are
Yeah.
offering scholarships for sure. Um, but I think that's the next frontier and the next big development as an industry that that we need to tackle is esports in my view has the potential to be a mid-major sport in the United States.
Okay.
And getting it there requires a shift that permeates all the way down from college via mechanisms like scholarships down through the high school and K-12 level. But it's, it's in the minds of the parents where, Dan Clerkey says
Yeah.
this all the time, and I steal it from him because it's a great point that we need to get esports to the point where when a parent says, I'm going to sign my kid up for soccer and for baseball and esports,
Yeah.
we need to get it in their minds, them seeing esports on the same level as other sports. Once
Right.
we get there, I think we'll be in a great spot. But the infrastructure, the pipeline, the accessibility, the resources, building all of that out, doing it sustainably, I think the collegiate space is instrumental in doing that. Like K-12 will follow
Yeah.
collegiate. So I think collegiate is a big leader. And I think even globally, a lot of people are waking up to the fact that the scholastic ecosystem, the collegiate ecosystem is sort of the sustainable epicenter of what esports
It
is
really
at a
is.
national level.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the scholarships, I think they're an under acknowledged component of it, because if
Yeah.
you look at the data, Voice just did this big research IRB approved thing, and one of the most staggering pieces of data that came out of it was that students had really felt that they wanted the programs to be funded more specifically in the direction of scholarship. Like that
Yeah.
was the thing more than anything else, that students were saying, we want more of this. This
Yeah.
is a huge driver, a huge incentive for us. And that's, if it's true for students at the collegiate level, then it's true for students at the high school level and downward. So I think that's a really important piece of the development of not just collegiate esports, but esports in the United States, broadly speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many institutions that are already doing scholarships. I mean, Dan's a
Yeah.
clear example of that at Maryville, right? Given full rides. Not everyone's there yet, but there's a lot of schools. Full Sail has scholarships that we award to students. We're not recruiting with them yet, but those are always the potential future to do those things. So I think that to answer the question, yeah, it's absolutely, I totally agree with you that if we can get the mindset, football, I'm gonna throw in hockey, esports, you know what I mean? Like on the same level, I think that we're gonna be in a really good place. You talked about research. Talk to me a little bit about the Collegiate Esports Eligibility white papers, which was a significant project that you worked on. Talk to me about like kind of working through that. What kind of challenges that did you uncover, and any other information that you want to share?
Yeah. I mean, that's one area, not just in collegiate esports, but in esports generally. You look at any other sport, there's so much data
Yeah.
around what makes the sport tick, and what it is, just data around the players, around the coaches, around the ecosystem, around the industry, around the fanfare.
Yeah.
And with esports, especially in the scholastic space, there's just none of it. So one of the things that Voice tries to do is do research in areas that are under underlooked at, undeveloped, where there's problems, where there's issues, where it feels like a pain point for a lot of institutions and participants in the space, whether that be students or directors or staff. The eligibility white paper was certainly uh, an interesting one. That was quasi-academic, so it wasn't IRB approved or anything. And that was done primarily through survey with our Directors Advisory Council, just looking at the state of eligibility in collegiate esports and sort of providing a bit of a landscape study on what's out there, what practices exist, what practices don't exist, and what policy recommendations might conferences and schools be able to pull
Yeah.
from those findings. And then that led to more recently the first IRB approved study that we've done, which took over a year to complete, and we just launched it. And that was on broadly the benefits of collegiate esports.
Yeah.
And that was working with member institutions at Voice, surveyed and studied almost 600 students, program directors, their staff. And you can go download that on the Voice website. There's too much data in there to talk about. Shout out to Seth Jenny, who's the primary investigator on that and led that research initiative. But more stuff like that is needed. That hopefully that serves as a foundation for others to kind of embark on their own research and take that to the next level.
And is that the inclusive excellence in collegiate esports handbook that you're talking about?
That's actually another one.
Okay,
So
there's more.
There is. If you go to on our website, the resources and research tab, you can find all that stuff. The Inclusive Excellence Handbook was authored by Russ Hamer and a bunch of other folks, and that's how to really bake inclusive excellence into your esports program from the outset and what kinds of tactics and concrete strategies you can use there. But no, this benefits of collegiate esports study was actually a different one entirely, and that's also free to download on the site.
Incredible. So the goal is going to the Voice website and downloading all this intense research and going through it and helping and using that to build your programs, right?
Yeah, it's all there. It's all there for free. We just want to do stuff and collect data and find information that people can use in whatever way they see fit.
Yeah, I love that. You also have worked with, building out like a monthly directors advisory council, and that's kind of been like a big part of your month. What kind of conversations are happening in these, and what excites you the most about what the work that you're doing there?
Those conversations are a highlight of my month always. I get goosebumps. I got major goosies every time I leave the conversation. We talk about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
They have been such amazing collaborators and consultants in helping steer Voice initiatives. I'll tease some stuff. We're doing a big standards initiative right now.
Yeah.
Some cool software we're developing, rubrics, and they've been instrumental in that for months now, almost a year. So they'll contribute to stuff like that, Voice projects that we're trying to get across the finish line. We talk about eligibility. We talk about issues. We talk about ideas. What can conferences and competitions be doing better? I and Voice, bring stuff to the meetings each month, but also it's open to anyone if they want to bring forth their own ideas for discussion too. So it's a pretty open forum in that sense. But it's always lively, always great insights in there. And hats off to them because they take an hour volunteer out of their busy schedules to come and spend some time talking with us. And it's always really rich in terms of the conversation, the content.
Yeah, that's awesome. We talk obviously a lot about the highs and the good things that we're doing. Sometimes it's hard to hear about all the great things when you're not in that space as a director, as a coach, as someone in this space. Talk to me about maybe some of the lows that you've had in your journey and mistakes that you made and lessons that were learned. And bringing something valuable out of those for you on your journey, and what could other people that maybe are in those similar situations, maybe look to and try to, okay, hey, I got to get out of this rut. Where do I go?
For sure. One of the biggest learning moments for me, and it was quite a low, was my working style historically is it's kind of fast and loose. I really like to get stuff done and move forward and be productive. And that can be effective in certain capacities, but there are moments where it pays to be slow and diligent and mindful. And when you're sprinting forward at 1,000,000 miles an hour, sometimes I've made decisions that were compromising of ethics that I hold that I may not have made otherwise had I been moving slower.
Yeah.
And I think that that's been a big one for me. And especially when you're in leadership roles, when there's more scrutiny and there's more onus and responsibility to be upstanding and to really get it right
Yeah.
and not have loose ends and that's been a big learning moment for me. It's just there's been lapses of judgment where speed came at the cost of decisions and not doing right by my students at certain points and by colleagues and the industry writ large. So, I've had my moments of being burned for sure. And those have been the most valuable
Yeah.
moments it's to have kind of come out the other side of that. I personally feel like I've grown as a leader, as a worker, in my understanding of what's okay and what's not okay and what I need to be doing and not doing. And it's kind of shifted my whole orientation and just to be a little bit slower and more diligent and thoughtful in certain moments. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
one that I could share. But it's the thing I would share more broadly, it's like those are if you can have those moments, like it looks different for everyone. Mine personally was, quite a public f up. I try not to swear here. And though, man, if you could have those, and hopefully yours aren't public, they're just the best things.
Yeah.
Maybe it sounds ridiculous to say, but like you can have 1,000 successes, but one moment like that I feel like there's more to be learned from that. It's a well of learning. Like
Yeah.
I feel like still months on, years on from that, whenever it was, I'm like, man, I'm still pulling stuff out of that. So yeah, just being grateful for the times where you don't get it right and maybe don't get it right in a big way,
Yeah.
and just being willing to you know have the humble pie,
Yeah.
eat the humble pie, and learn from it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, some of the most valuable lessons come from getting back up off the ground, and
Totally.
it it hurts and it's not great all the time, but you really learn something along the way, and I think that goes a long way. And so hopefully, folks out there that are in those spaces now, that are in that time of their life, and they can look to the positive of, hey, I'm learning something. We've realized this is not a path that we want to go down, and we're able to move forward. Obviously, we have only a couple minutes left. I do want to give you an opportunity to shout out anything that you're working on, as well as tell people where they can find you. Give them all that to us, and then we'll do a couple rapid fire questions there.
Sure. Let me think about that. Keep an eye out for some voice stuff coming out this fall. We've got some cool announcements, so keep your eyes and ears peeled. You can find me. What is my Twitter handle?
It's right there. It's below. Yeah.
Jesse Bodony 1 on Twitter or X, and then Jesse Bodony on LinkedIn, or jesse@voicecollegiate.org is my email address if you want to shoot me an email. But that's pretty much it. Yeah, I just really appreciate you having me on, Bennett.
Yeah.
And to talk with you is a super pleasure and a real treat. And yeah, it's been an awesome hour.
Absolutely. And we talk about making mistakes. I realize that I have made a mistake, and that the thing did not update properly, and it says my last guest on here. So that is my fault, and I will eat that humble pie. But
good.
we will
All
fix
good.
that in post, obviously. But obviously, hitting these final questions. What keeps you recharged outside of esports and working in esports? What sort of hobbies do you have to stay recharged?
My lovely wife is my is my answer. But seriously, I mean, ooh, don't know where I'd be without her. She has walked me back from many ledges and does that on a daily basis. So I think I owe her a big shout out. But yeah, she's keeps my battery going for sure.
I love that. Yeah. And shout out to all the family and friends that keep everybody going out there.
Indeed.
Obviously, big important part. Still playing soccer, not professionally, but what do you go out and play a lot?
Oh yeah, I play twice a week. I host a pickup game out in New York, and then I play on a men's team. It's called New York Serbia. It's a bunch of Serbian guys. We actually were in the Serbian National Championships in Cleveland, in Ohio, this past weekend. Um, so still playing,
Love
fun
that.
stuff. But that actually keeps me not thinking about work 24/7 for sure too. So that would be another one.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for
And
joining
looking at
us.
fantasy football.
Oh, wait, I didn't want to say losing at fantasy football. Is fantasy football? What is Sari saying here?
Oh, and hey Bennett, I'm sorry to interrupt you if you were talking. I mentioned before to you that my audio is a little bit finicky and
Yeah.
then my audio cuts out. My headphones went out.
Oh
So
no.
we're at
Okay.
time now, so I guess
Well,
it's a good
hey,
time for that.
perfect time for this to happen. This is what happens when it's live. My next episode of Have Game Will Travel will be on September 18, featuring Tim Darkness 429 Havoc from the streaming and content creation space. Very excited to have him. But we will see you next time. Thank you to Jesse Bodony for being my guest, and we will see you all next time.